Welcome back. You're watching the Ease of Doing Business Town Hall here on CNBC TV18 in association with Invest India. We've got foreign investors here from countries like UK, Singapore, Israel, Russia, China, talking about investing in India, their experience and what they would expect from the government. Also here with us, the DIpp Secretary, Ramesh Abhishek. We were talking about manufacturing just before we went into the break. I want to come to you, sir, to give me a sense of what it would take for you to put more money into India, to shift more production lines into India.
Thank you, Shireen. My perspective is one of about 20 years of working in the automotive industry in India, off and on, and now in the railway industry. So if I just sort of start from now, at Bombardier, we're actually using India as an export base. That story you can see repeated in the automotive industry. And it's a very different story when you look at it. I can take names because I think this is all public knowledge. But let's say the first company I was with, General Motors. Today, General Motors is still operating in India as a manufacturing base. Two other companies that I was associated with more recently are both operating in India with about 40 to 50% of their production being exported. So in terms of manufacturing in India and being competitive globally, yes, it can be done, proven across at least the automotive industry and now the railway industry. I think there's a second element to this, Shireen, which is first you invest in India, but then you decide to reinvest what you were winning or invest more. Now that is the key. Right. I think where companies need to focus on is how do you adapt yourself to India, given that the rules of engagement I think are very clear, which is you have to localize more in manufacturing. It is very key. You have to adapt your products to the local conditions. Is that happening or not? And it's a lot of your internal processes, as the late C.K. Prahalad used to say, global. Somewhere along the way, many multinationals, I think, have forgotten this simple word called global. If you try to run an Indian operation the way you're running an operation in America or Europe, it simply doesn't work. Not that you have to cut corners, not that you have to do anything wrong, but you have to adapt yourself to the local conditions in a proper way. So I think that's very, very important, and I think the automotive industry shows it again and again and again.
Well, that it certainly does. I just want to take that point forward, and maybe there are other investors here with comments on that specific issue of using India as an export hub, using India as an export base. The move towards the goods and services tax will certainly alleviate a lot of the pains and the pressures that foreign investors were facing as things stabilize. But anybody here wants to share experiences of using India as an export hub? Yes, sir, you wanted to come in.
Dr. Abhishek Garg from Vision Mobile. We have invested in India to make mobile phones manufacturing in India. Almost 2,500 job generations, and we are producing more than 1 million phones a month in India as of now, and investing more, getting into further backward integration. Now, one piece was very interesting, that the day one we had consolidated list that these all approvals and licenses you would be required to run a company in India, a factory in India. Wherever there was a problem, there is a gentleman who is helping us to get us out. We have to just bring in our capital, our customer, and our machinery. So till here, I think this piece is pretty well as far as our industrial sector, which is we will call it as the electronic manufacturing services is concerned. So this piece is fine. Now, eventually, what sir was saying, that it is more of now adaptation of India as a manufacturing hub, and eventually to convert that into an export. Now here the challenges are still there, which I'm sure government is working on that, like labor laws reforms and whatever Abhishek sir has also spoken, that all those points to be taken care. And eventually for export we need a conducive environment as far as entrepreneurs' exposure to overseas markets. So Indian entrepreneur is still in a mode that we will import and use the domestic market because we are one of the biggest market of the world. So I think we are a mile away from the export thing. But then the operational piece has to be fixed immediately.
The operational piece has to be fixed immediately, and I think a lot of what we've heard here from the government as well as the Invest India team is an effort to be able to do that. But let me also talk about the other big focus area, and that is Startup India, which has also been something, Mr. Abhishek, that you've been looking at the DIpp. There has been a slowdown in the startup ecosystem over the past 2 years. We have seen the number of startups that were being set up coming down quite significantly. New startups in 2016 were about 6,000. We're down to about 800 now if I look at the data. What more can we expect now in terms of nurturing the startup ecosystem?
When we talk about funding going down or number of startups coming down, we are only looking at the big ticket fundings by the venture capital funds. Actually, what we need to see is those hundreds of millions of young people who want to become entrepreneurs today.
Yes.
We need to provide them with the ecosystem and the enablers in the environment, like large number of incubators. We are setting up tinkering labs. We need to have seed funding. We need to have marketing support for them. We need to do all this so that we reach out to tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities as well.
Okay.
So I think what we are doing, what the government is doing, is a comprehensive intervention in the startup space, providing them equity. Now we are going to have a credit guarantee fund. We are providing marketing support. We are connecting them to investors through our hub. There are a whole lot of interventions. There are laws which are not meant for startups. So we are trying to change the laws for angel investors, for different types of funding, etc., and the way the companies work.
So can we expect something on that front in the budget, sir? Is that going to be a specific recommendation that you make to the finance minister?
Just the other day we had a meeting with Chairman Secy with 20 angel investor groups in the country about how the angel investor groups can be regulated so that they take advantage of Section 56 of Income Tax Act. So there are a lot of things that we are trying to do. I mean, not everything can be done in a day, but it's a process and we are working on it.
Okay, we've got some startups here as well with us. Let me ask you about A, the experience, B, what more would you like to see happen?
So my name is Prashant Tandon. I run 1MG, a digital health startup. We have received a lot of support from the Invest India team, so I must congratulate and compliment the team here on that. In our business, healthcare by definition is a regulated industry, and innovation by definition is doing things in a new way. So that's where the dichotomy really comes. And
but that's the case world over, right? I mean, regulation is always a step behind innovation.
Absolutely. And I think what's heartening now is the attitude has changed and innovation is being welcomed. And in a complex space like this where we need Ministry of Health, Ministry of IT, Ministry of Commerce, CDSCO, dealing with a lot of parties, I think the support that we are getting in just having somebody in the government who's our good friend, I think that itself is encouraging.
Okay.
What more needs to be done? Quite a bit. So I think that's...
Give me the top 3 priorities that you would like the government to focus on.
I think regulations implementation at the state level, there's still a lot of work. There's a lot of issues that need to be sorted out in that one big piece. The second important piece, I think, is speed. Things are moving, but they need to move faster. Attrition is what kills startups. And that's back and forth, because frankly, some of these decisions don't take long. It's just the process still takes long. So I think for us, a single window and a quick process is what is critically important. And third is, I think in healthcare, innovation needs to be and will be unleashed, but there needs to be a way to deal with regulation for anybody, because nobody wants to break rules. I think we need to just have a conducive environment for that. And frankly, it does require policy support.
Ms. Abhishek, just on that point of innovation and supporting innovation, sir, and it's not just for the healthcare sector. There's a bunch of sectors, including financial technology. The fintech industry is also talking about the need for faster regulatory changes to keep pace with innovation. Countries like Singapore actually adopt a sandbox approach where they test, in a pilot phase, etc., and then move forward with regulation much more faster. Is that something perhaps that we would be considering, sir?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that we can definitely look at. But what we have done, for example, e-pharmacy and a whole lot of issues on taxes and regulations, we have been interacting with the stakeholders. We bring them under the same roof and we try to sort it out. But, I must mention here that we are also about to start ranking of states on their support to startups. And one of the criteria we plan to do is to how much regulatory support they give to startups. And that
so this is going to be a new index altogether?
Absolutely. New index. and support of states to startups. Because, you know, this actually, such a ranking brings the issues to the forefront of political and administrative discourse.
When do you start this, sir?
Hopefully 1st December.
1st December,
Absolutely.
the DIPP launches the ease of doing business for startups, a ranking of states.
Support to startups by the states.
Support to startups by states. So that's going live on the 1st of December.
Absolutely.
All right, excellent. We are going to be, that's another index now to watch out for from the DIPP. Sir, you're keeping us busy. Any more investors here who'd yes, sir. Go ahead.
My name is Chaube. I represent Sharaf Group of Industries. It's a global business conglomerate having in 20 countries. They have been here for about more than 15 years, and the total investment was about 1,000 crores. Last 1.5 years, things have changed, and their focus has also shifted. And this week of November, they signed MOU about 7,500 crores for agri-logistic park in different states. And they have committed, of course, this job has made my job slightly difficult, thanks to Invest India, because now we have to just execution of such a large number of projects in country, different states. It's not an easy task.
Right.
The second aspect which I wanted is about to speak on something which government should focus on, and probably the investment, next big area of investment is the field of logistics.
Right.
Now, India, the GDP cost is about 14%. Or developed countries, 8 to 9%.
Right.
1% reduction in logistic costs works out to 1.5 lakh crores per annum. And this, if you make it 2 or 3%, to make it at par at 8 or 9%, that's 5% difference. So this is an area, which our group is focusing on. Government has, for a change after a long time, has made one nodal government officer responsible for this. That is in the Commerce Ministry. They have got now a special secretary in charge of logistics.
Maybe all right.
Only we hope that that really works.
Well,
and the way it is working in other fields.
We hope that that will work. If there's a man in charge, Mr. Abhishek, I'm sure you're going to make sure that it does work, right?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it's so true that we spend 14% of GDP on logistics. But, you know, over last many decades, our inland waterways transport is virtually negligible. Yeah. 30% of the goods move by railways and 70% by road.
This is Mr. Gadkari's dream and pet project.
So now the government is making a lot of investments, but we really need to fix this. We need to move goods by the cheapest mode of transport. GST is going to help a lot. Sure. We need to develop our coastal shipping, but these are all results will come in the medium and long term.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Gaurav Mathur and I head Teva in India. Teva is the largest pharmaceutical company in the world on generic side. We have a significant presence in India in manufacturing and R&D, employing about 4,000 people. So a couple of thoughts and then a question at the end. First of all, great day to organize the town hall. Lovely air. So that's... But it's nice and clear, so good evening to organize it. Second, I think big congratulations to the team DIPP Invest India for the rankings, and we know this is work in progress, but it's really nice the jump that has been made. The question I have is that we have Invest India at the central government level, which is acting really in a very good way, as has been echoed, to help us resolve our problems or help us facilitate us. Are there plans to encourage this at the state levels? Because as some of the people mentioned here, while the intent is extremely good and the implementation is very helpful,
specific states that you are having issues with?
well, let's not go there. But I think that would also be very helpful because I think regulations and so on.
All right. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Actually, many states had investment in promotion agencies much earlier. It is the central government that has been the laggard, actually.
Yeah.
We had Invest India incorporated in 2009, and it was virtually defunct. So it has been revived in 2015 under the new government. because our Prime Minister had the experience of having a very effective investment promotion agency in Gujarat.
In Gujarat, yes.
That's how the Prime Minister's office has driven setting up of Invest India as the prime national investment facilitation agency. But many states are having pretty effective ones.
Okay.
And we are coordinating very closely with them now. I mean, as a matter of fact, soon we are going to have a brainstorming with all the state IPAs so that we coordinate our efforts as a nation.
Okay, so one perhaps coordinated agency to take this forward. Very quickly before we take a break, yes.
So one interesting thing that we are doing, again, this is something which complements, the other big 3-year EODB initiative with states, which is basically where we are focusing on working with the IPAs, the investment promotion agencies. Invest India's mandate is to make the state IPAs amongst the best in the world, a lot of cross-learning with each other, and really intensify Invest India's working with the states. In the last 30 days, we have spent time with around 9 states, and by 15th January, we plan to cover, all the states in the country. So there's like detailed, intensive, day-long, workshops which we are doing with the states.
Well, that is good to hear, and we'll check with you on the 15th of January if you've managed to cover all of India or not. On that note, we'll take another break, but when we return, we get concluding remarks here on the Ease of Doing Business Town Hall on CNBC TV18 in partnership with Invest India. Don't go anywhere.